There we go. Jane, it's so wonderful to reconnect with you. Thank you so much for all your advocacy group work, um, as well as your time today.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you, Paul, for all
And
you're doing.
oh well, we've always said, right? It takes a village.
Oh, yes.
Um, there's a lot of people that we're walking on top of their shoulders or standing on their shoulders with work that's been done for years before we were even a company. So it's again, it is that village mentality. It takes a lot of different people, ideas, and education around the collision issues, etc. But I don't want to get long-winded because I can be. I want to do a proper introduction because I want to do you justice. So I've got something I'm going to read here.
Okay.
So for everyone, Jane Alexander is a Tony, an award and Emmy Award winning and four-time Academy Award nominated actress known for the films The Great White Hope, All the President's Men, Kramer versus Kramer, and Testament, which joined the Criterion Collection this week. You can also see her in American Classic as Ethel Bean and in Severance as Sissy Coble. Jane is a champion for the arts, having served as chair of the National Endowment for the Arts from 93 to 1997. And importantly, for our conversation today, she's a global wildlife ambassador who has served on the boards of Audubon, Wildlife Conservation Society, American Bird Conservancy, and American Birding Association, and on the advisory boards of BirdLife International, Panthera, and Center Val Bio, among others. Over the last 2 years, she has dedicated significant time and energy to raising awareness about preventing bird collisions. So again, thank you so much for your time. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
So we're going to grill you a bit. We've
Okay.
got we've got a few questions, and I've got them sort of broken into a couple of categories. So here's some opening questions. You've shared your fascination with birds began when you were very young, jumping off furniture, trying to fly like the birds. And that became a lifelong love of birding and conservation. Can you tell us how that early spark evolved into the work you do today?
Yes. Well, early on, I was always drawn to the outside, to bugs and
Mhm.
bees and birds. And I was climbing trees at a very early age and that kind of thing, looking under the bark. A real tomboy, we used to call us then.
Mhm.
And then but birds were the ones that I kept gravitating to because they flew. What else flew? I mean, I
Right.
saw some bats, but birds were really the apex for me of all creatures in the world because they had that capability. And I wanted it too. So my dad was so cute. He built balsa wood wings for me. And he would take me to places that had little cliffs, soft cliffs
Right.
or dunes, and made me run. I wanted to run along like the Wright brothers,
Right. That's awesome.
and then jump off, and nothing ever happened. I never got left off. But it did instill in me this awe, absolute awe
Right.
of these creatures and how different they are flying.
It's so funny because I can relate with that as far as um, I was the kid who I just gravitated towards nature.
Yeah.
I know better now, but I was the one who rescued stray cats, injured birds, collected snakes and frogs and all that
Right.
sort of stuff. So I can relate to what you were saying. Um, I find now too for me that nature is such an important um, space for me for mental health.
Oh,
Um, I know when I'm stressed in my everyday life, I actually get out. My wife will say, "Come on, we're going on a hike," or something of that idea, and I just feel so much more grounded, and I feel the heaviness lift from my head and my shoulders. So um,
Hmm.
we're
I
lucky to have
totally,
it.
I relate to that totally as well, Paul. And I think many of us who are outside feel the same way.
Mhm.
It's it's a stabilizing force because you realize our connectivity to everything and that we're not the most important thing.
You
We're all part of it.
you just
And
hit the
so
nail
it's
on the head. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
no, that's all. It's just it is a stabilizing force. And every morning when I get up early, like a lot of birders and go out. And just this morning with this little nip in the air and
Mhm.
seeing a few migrants just coming in was so lifting. This gave me oh yes, back where I belong.
And obviously, this is relative to our today's world. We need those sort of releases. We need some positivity or some ways to cope with everything.
Exactly. There's so much bad news. Yeah.
Now, you talked about the migrants coming in.
Mhm.
Migration is starting, and so my second question: You've birded for decades and participated in the Christmas bird counts and breeding bird surveys each year. Is there a particular species that holds a special place for you?
Oh yeah. It's got to be the wood thrush.
Nice.
Because when my husband, Ed Sharon, who's since passed,
Mhm.
and we moved to the country in Putnam County, New York,
Right.
we had I called him the grand old man. We
Mhm.
had a wood thrush that sang like no wood thrush you've ever heard in your life, because I've searched for them since and I've heard many, many. But
Right.
this grand old man was stunning in his song. I
Wow.
did record him a number of times, and I recorded him in kind of a jazz concert with, I think it must have been his offspring on either side, five 5 feet away. But they were doing like a syncopation, all
Wow.
wild stuff. So the wood thrush for me was like, it sounded like some wonderful religious music from the spheres. And when he passed on, which was, he could lived a good 8 years, I'd say.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
so anyway, it has to be the wood thrush. And then all thrushes, I'm drawn to all of them.
I'm an early riser, and our office manager Luna, who's our four-legged furry friend, I'll let her out first thing, or we'll go for a quick walk, and I so enjoy hearing the early morning songs from all the various birds. And I've
Mm,
noticed here in Toronto in the last several weeks, now um, it's ramped up. We know that hopefully spring is around the corner, and we're
yeah,
hearing more songs every morning, which is fantastic. And it sort of puts a little lift in my step to start the day.
I agree. And isn't it wonderful to hear this morning, the song sparrow was really early
Mhm.
singing. They're always so, but it was cold. And I thought, wow, you're really eager to sing.
I remember as a young kid, and we'd have our windows open in the spring and summer, with obviously the proper weather temperatures. And I remember getting mad at the birds because they'd wake me up.
Right.
And and it wasn't until I got a little older did I understand what a beautiful gift that is.
Yes. Yes.
And we're so lucky. So, okay, now shifting gears slightly. These are termed under advocacy and art.
Mm.
You've used your voice in film, theater, writing, and conservation. Do you see a connection between your work as an actor and your work in conservation, where you're telling a different kind of story about the natural world?
Hmm. Well, I'm working on a film that I'm going to shoot in another couple of weeks right now. and I'm building the character,
Mm.
you know.
Right.
And how do I build the character? I build the character from the inside based on the script about where she lives and where, what, blah, blah. And so that's how I create her story within the context of the whole story that the writer has given. And it may not even be something that he or she has written down, the writer, but it's something that I build for myself and for whoever wants to observe what I'm doing
Right.
ultimately. Uh, for conservation, I actually look at it the other way around, is that I come in and build a story for the birds to be able to tell it to other people.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and I can see how that would have so much impact. Um,
I hope so. Not all stories are as great as others,
mm,
but in life, we like success stories as human beings. I think everything likes success stories. So we look for a happy ending. And sometimes that's hard to find these days with birds, except you and I have just been building a story actually about going out and finding mental health and stabilization and
right.
happiness given the environment we find ourselves in.
Mhm.
And fortunately, the environment is still there for us, you know, not totally, but we know, but it's there, as we've just been talking about. So
And,
that's a very good story.
and we do have a responsibility as humans, don't we, to tell that story.
Hmm.
And like you pointed out, there's good and unfortunately there's bad associated with
Hmm.
this. And you know, when we started many years ago, we always sort of focused on the positive, which I think as humans we want to do, and that is a proper way of going about it. We can't be all doom and gloom,
Yeah.
but we have found through our journey and other partners and people in this space that exploring those stories that are tough to share are just as important because we can't have our head in the sand with what we're doing to our planet,
No.
with
Oh,
all
no.
wildlife. And
Yeah.
we take it, we sort of got this saying that, it's about education and conservation in communication. So it, even though we've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I know you've seen this, the shift, the momentum of wanting to do something, and in particular in our space with the bird collisions, has grown immensely. And I think it continues to grow.
Oh, yes. And it will. And we know that that's fixable.
Yes,
That
yes,
particular issue, which you're very involved with treatments for windows, which is vital. That's
yeah,
the vital thing
yeah,
that that you are solving and others who are in that particular business.
right,
So that's a major, that's the pivotal point in the story that has happened.
right,
And our message now is to get the word out to all the
exactly.
people. I recently just had a young woman. I was just tangentially talking about bird collisions, and a woman overheard me, and she said, "Well, I just see them. They just hit the window all the time, and I have to pick them up, and I just don't know what to do." And I thought it was interesting because I'm assuming now that most people know through the media what to do, but she didn't. And so I said, "Listen, let me just put you on to, well, the organization you and I particularly are involved with is Bird Collisions Prevention Alliance. Just send her that what to do when a bird hits your window. Um, but there are many, many bird organizations that is happening. But that's so we have a lot of work still to do in that area to reach as many people as possible and globally.
Yeah, you're so right there because, um, we work with a lot of architects and I'm still getting reach outs where they're like, yeah, we sort of understand that there's a bird collision issue, but, you know, tell me more. So it's
Right.
almost like we're so close to this that because we sort of eat, breathe, sleep this, that um, sometimes I have to take a step back to understand that the person contacting us via email, phone call, or in person, like you just mentioned, this may be the first time they're experiencing it, or they've experienced and don't know what the solution is. So it's that education part is so, so key.
It is. And it's not as easy as, we've been talking in our group and with others about it's not as easy reaching the residents in their own
Yes.
houses as it is reaching people who build big buildings,
Right, right.
which you have a lot of interchange with. And so, but it's always one by one by one, isn't it? We just one person tell one person tell one person.
And
Maybe that's
we,
part of our story, Paul. We say, okay, you've got the solution, tell somebody else.
yes. And it's funny you say that because we see it where it's spread like wildfire over the years. And again, it's
Mhm.
there was that old shampoo commercial years and years ago where it said, "You tell one friend, and they tell one friend," and it was the visuals where it was one square, two squares, four squares, eight squares, and it was that idea of communicating it, sharing it, and educating other people. And
Mhm.
I think that's so true. We live in a very different time with technology and everything else, and it's everything's at our fingertips, but I don't know. I'm old school, Jane. I like talking to people. I like interacting. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's so key. So again, you know, working with all these organizations, speaking, being able to share wins, all of that is so important because then that just grows the knowledge.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to shift to birds and conservation.
Mhm.
You've seen bird populations and habitats change over decades. What's something people might be surprised to learn, whether it's from your own birding experiences or from doing long-term counts?
Might be surprised. Well, I'll tell you some good things and some bad things.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, I have been doing counts for maybe 60 years and I've been doing surveys for about 50.
Wow.
So, um, both in Nova Scotia and in not Nova Scotia quite as long, 25 years in Nova Scotia, but in New York, maybe 50 years. Uh, but so the surprise for me actually has been the collapse of insects.
Mm,
We don't talk about that very much, but we do know that birds have declined for almost as much as 40% over the past since the 70s.
yeah,
And they're continuing to decline, particularly the aerial insectivores.
right.
So, what's going on with the insects? And this is global. The first study that was done on it actually was in the Netherlands about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And then Germany caught on, and we're way behind
Mhm.
in trying to catch up on. But I just asked people, when was the last time you saw your windshield covered with insects on a hot summer day? It doesn't happen very much anymore.
No, that's a good point. And we do know that it's biodiversity depends on sort of the next thing. So,
Hmm.
bird species are impacted by lack of insects. And
Yeah,
and insects play such an integral role in biodiversity in other ways. So it's this circle effect, isn't it?
it's exactly. And even those that are not necessarily omnivores are at certain times of their life are feeding, even hummingbirds are feeding their little babies a little bit of insecticide kind, not insecticide, excuse me. That's what gets into it, but little bits of insects and larvae at an early age.
Mm.
So we really, really need to look at what's going on with insects. And I think we're going to find that we have more pollution in the air and
Mm.
in the soil and in the water than we've expected. And we haven't done enough data count. We know that most of the massive agriculture across the United States and Canada uses pesticides to grow their crops. Most of them.
And as you were talking, I had this memory flashback in my head. I spent a lot of my youth uh, in the summers up at my grandparents' place up in Utterson, Ontario, in northern, about
Mm.
2 hours north of Toronto. They
Yeah,
built a
beautiful.
retirement home there, and it was gorgeous. And it was my playground. It was forest area. I saw my first moose up there, all kinds of different wildlife. But as you were talking about insects, and I had this, again, this flashback of on their property, they had this area where most of the time I'd be able to go out at night and see the fireflies.
Yeah,
I don't know the last time I've seen a firefly.
me too.
And that's so sad because when I was thinking about that memory, it brought me great joy because it brought me back to being that 8-year-old kid,
Right.
up at my grandparents and sharing that experience with them.
Yeah,
And there are people that I'm going to go out on a limb who've probably never seen a firefly.
I think you're absolutely right, Paul. You can start to ask people, and that can be pretty much deliberately attributable to habitat loss through whatever development or pesticides. And uh, because if you put a huge field, there's some still. The last time I saw a massive amount of fireflies was, I'm trying to think which state it was. I think it was Ohio a couple of years ago. And that was a totally organic farm where they had nothing. Now, just down the road, a couple of miles was a huge, and there was very few. So,
Wow.
but
We,
this is the kind of data we really, really need to think about. And it's not just birds, you know. It ultimately reaches all of us, by the way. If we have pollutants in our waterways and we're drawing from those waterways, yeah,
it is again not full circle because we do know, um, certain health issues are now attributed. You can sort of trace it back to
right.
chemicals, the pesticides, the change in the way we're growing food and the way food has been modified, and um, it's actually quite scary.
Yeah.
Um, it really, when you sit down and think about it, how much change there is. Um, my wife's Italian, so she spent the first 5 years of her life in Italy, and we've been back several times, and we go and see some of her family, and I'm amazed at how their lifestyle is so much different than, say, a North American lifestyle.
Hmm.
In the fact that the local markets are from the local farmers. The food was picked that morning. The
Yes.
fish was caught that morning. There's no preservatives and modifications and everything else. And you look at them and there has been documentaries on them that they live such a longer lifespan and a healthier life.
Yeah. Well, that's the Mediterranean. They call what they call the
Yes.
Mediterranean diet, which is a great diet. I don't eat all that pasta, but I eat most of the other stuff they try to give it. Yeah.
But there's something to be said for exactly what we've talked about, the pesticides, the pollution and all of that we need to pay closer attention to and hopefully try and reverse some of the stuff that's gone on.
Exactly. And it starts always right in our backyards. Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay, so bird glass collisions are a
Oh,
huge.
Paul,
Oh,
I was gonna say some good things though.
oh, sorry. Yes, please do. Yeah, because we
that
need
I've been
good.
sup- that I've been surprised about and pleased about.
Yes.
So I spend half the year, I'm a Canadian resident, half the year in Nova Scotia, and I'm an American citizen. In New York, I'm here right now in my apartment, not in New York City, but outside. And the thing that surprised me most is the number of birds through the many years I've been in Nova Scotia, and my family's been there for a couple of hundred years. So uh, since my early childhood, who have migrated from even the south of the US up now and live year round in Nova Scotia. They are adapting to climate change.
Right.
So now we have Carolina wren in Nova Scotia.
Wow.
And this past year, we had titmice for the first time.
Wow.
Titmice, that wonderful little bird that we so plentiful here in New England and New York. Um, so there's a lot, birds are not dumb. They
Mhm.
know what they need. And if they can, they will find a way. So that's the good news is that some species are going to do just fine. We need
Yes.
to help them a little bit, maybe with their food and shelter, but
Right.
they're going to get there. Others, we have to really help where they are.
Yes.
So,
I think that's so important. I very much appreciate you stopping me from going forward and sharing that because that is good news. And these are the things that we need to celebrate as well. And you're absolutely right. I've had a few people over the years and they'll make comments like there was an old saying like you're a bird brain. And that was sort of like a negative connotation, but it's birds are very, very intelligent and they're
oh,
so important for our ecosystem and biodiversity. So again,
mm,
it it's our responsibility to do what we can, where we can, how we can, sort of thing.
yeah.
Okay, so I was going to share a question about bird glass collisions are a huge preventable source of bird mortality. When you first learned about the issue, how did it affect you? And why do you think a problem like this can be so hard for people to grasp?
Because it hits you right in the gut.
Mm,
I'm almost everybody, nobody likes to see dead birds,
yeah,
particularly some of the beauties like the little warblers, so vulnerable, so beautiful, lying at your feet dead on a pavement
right,
usually, or just outside your house, outside your windows, or hitting the window and then struggling and you go and you put them in a cardboard box hoping they're going to revive and they don't. Most of the time they just can't make it. So it's a gut wrench. It's just very, very hard to take. And I think most people, and this is where the continuation of our story as those on Bird Collision Prevention Alliance comes in, that we can help them get through it by telling them how to prevent it. And then they feel good that they're doing something. It's like that woman that I recently helped, just sending her the information. She didn't know what to do and she felt awful, so she just ignored it.
yeah. And there's probably a lot of those stories out there
Hmm.
that people are just not aware. And that's why the organizations that we all work with are so important to, again, raising that awareness. Um,
That's right.
it's funny when you talk about it being sort of a gut punch, and we work with a Toronto organization called FLAP, Fatal Light
Oh,
Awareness
yeah.
Program.
That's one of the oldest.
It
I think
is.
maybe the oldest, yeah.
It is.
They've
They
come big
they
words.
are well over 30 plus years in
Mm,
Toronto.
mm,
So April 11th, we're actually doing the annual layout at our facility here where we welcome in the volunteers, media, etc., to raise further awareness. Now, I call it brutal. It's brutal, but it's incredibly beautiful. And the first time I ever did it, they laid out approximately 3,500 birds that had been collected in Toronto that had been killed. They've been frozen, and then they do an artistic layout to raise the awareness. And I
mhm.
remember the first year I did it, I was amazed at the varied species that, in all honesty, I've never seen pass through here, like alive. But we do
Mhm.
know they've struck glass and been killed here.
Mm,
And the varied birds, birds that almost look tropical
yeah.
with colors and plumage and everything else. And glass does not discriminate. It'll take um, one year we laid out, I was part of the layout with Flap that they laid out a cormorant. They laid out a turkey.
Wow.
And that had struck glass and been killed. Um, we see, the various hawks, the owls, um, species that I'm sad to say I've never seen alive because there's
Wow.
been some species that were at risk. I'll never forget the one year there was a volunteer laying out this, and it was a special circle of at-risk species. She'd been birding for like 50 years of her life, and she was holding a species of bird, and unfortunately, I can't remember what it was. And she was quite upset.
Mm,
And so I went over to her and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Paul," she goes, "I've been birding for over 50 years. I've never seen this bird. And the first time I'm seeing it, I'm holding it as a dead
yeah.
species." And it sort of broke my heart because there are so many people that are so passionate about birds, this cause, nature, and the gravity of collisions. And again, just with my blinders on, just the gravity of collisions and her experience, I will never ever forget that. That's like sort of ingrained in me now. And I
Yeah.
think that's why we take such great sort of pride in what we do, because yes, we need to sell product to keep the lights on and people employed. But first and foremost, we want glass treated. I
Yes.
want I want my grandchildren to see the same wildlife, birds that I saw growing up,
Mhm.
because that formed who I am as a human.
Yeah. Right. Right on.
So,
Hmm.
okay, so inspiring others, which you do a lot of, Jane.
I
What
try.
keeps you hopeful in this work, especially on the tougher days when species are declining or habitats are shrinking?
Okay. Um, there's some excitement when you get to be my age. And you've experienced Rachel Carson,
Hmm,
and that we were talking about pesticides and the turnaround of DDT being taken out of our, uh, certainly North American back where we were poisoning things with
mhm,
DDT. And seeing the turnaround that happened when we thought that the peregrine falcon was headed for extinction.
right.
And then we eliminated DDT, so their nest, the eggs would be viable for them and other raptors, certainly the condor as well. And the bald eagle, of course, is a huge success story.
Mhm.
There's now so many bald eagles that we sort of go like, wait a minute. I mean, I do the Christmas bird count, and we had 13 bald eagles this year on the Hudson
Wow.
River in one spot. And it was like, whoa, you know. So that is an exciting thing when you can save creatures and you look back
Mm.
50 years later and you say, wow, we did it. We did it, guys. I keep a picture on my wall I'm looking at right now, and it's a lithograph that was made in Germany about 250 years ago, and it's of a dodo.
Uh,
The dodo was the first bird that was really documented as becoming extinct,
mhm.
one of the first birds, and they made a lot of pictures of it. And it's to remind myself that we didn't bring back that dodo, but we did bring back the other picture that I have of a bald eagle on the wall.
Mhm.
So those are success stories, and we have much more ability technically to do all these things now to save birds. Now there's some certain ways that we probably won't save them, and that and that still have to be tackled, and that of course is habitat loss, which is the main killer. But if we keep working at it, we
When
can.
you talk about the bald eagle, the two sort of things came to mind right away. Was when we were at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services Summit, and they had their bald eagle nesting there, and they had
Yeah,
it on the closed circuit TV
yeah.
for us to see, which that blew me away, being able to see that um, so close and so personal.
Hmm.
Um, stuff like that, I don't, maybe I'm a little funny, but stuff like that really sticks with me because it's like it does sort of set me back and has me in awe. And exactly like you said earlier, we're not the most important thing here. I
No.
am, we're to be, you know, I, I sort of consider myself like I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but an equal. I'm no better. It's
Yeah,
like seeing them in the nest was
yeah,
so incredible. And then my second point to that was my wife sometimes rolls her eyes at me because we were driving along up near Tobermory in northern Ontario, and there was a juvenile bald eagle on the ground. And I had to do one of those driving along. I did the quick little turn, spun back,
yeah.
and I got video footage of it on the ground and then flying away. And it was just those are those, I don't know, spiritual moments that,
Yes.
just again, just make me feel good to be alive and sort of sets me back in my place of where I am in the world, if that makes sense.
Right. Oh, I'm glad you said that it was fine because I thought you were going to say it had been hit by a car or
No,
something.
no. It's funny because with it being on the ground, I was a little concerned because it was in a field,
Oh, I see.
but it was I don't know what it was doing, but it was putting on a little bit of a show. And of course, I don't know why I think this means anything or works, but I was trying to talk to it. And it
Oh,
was, hey buddy, you okay? And he was dancing
yeah.
around, and then he, started the flap and then took off, and it was like I don't know. To me, that was a little bit of a God nod sort of thing. Like,
Paul, you just used a tone of voice. You said, "Are you okay, buddy?" And I read a paper. It was a scientific paper. It must have been 15 years ago. Gosh, I can't even remember where it was. And it said that if you speak to animals, almost any animals, in the voice that you use as a human being speaking to babies,
mm,
they will they will calm down.
wow.
Now, I didn't quite believe this, but I do. I speak to the song sparrows when I go out in the morning after they do their little trill, like this morning. I said, "Wow, that was really lovely. Thank you." And they don't move.
No, no,
It's surprising how you can get to animals. I try
yeah,
it. And then if you just use, we do it with our dogs. We say, "How are you, you little
exactly.
sweetie pie?"
Exactly. You know
Try
what?
it with try it with everything. I have yet to have an insect turn around, but I'm going to work on it.
That might happen one day, Jane. That might happen.
A
Uh,
beetle, maybe.
um, I got a couple more questions. And so here's one. For someone who loves birds but doesn't know where to begin in helping, what simple first steps would you recommend?
Well, um, I was that person. I mean, I was a little girl who didn't, who then, once I hit puberty, I sort of left birds behind and boys came into my life. But 15 years later, I found myself wanting to some more attention to birds.
Mhm.
And somebody said join a Audubon chapter.
Right.
So I would join an organization where you can get with other like-minded people and learn something. I was lucky in that Audubon chapter because I had a fellow who was really an older man who was bent over with some ailment. I think it was either
Right.
osteoporosis or Parkinson's, and he couldn't lift his head up anymore. Would take
Mhm.
me out and he taught me all the calls and the
Wow.
songs of birds, which I'm so grateful for, it just changed my life. I
Wow.
still have to work at it a lot every year because there's so many of them. And by the way, each individual bird often has their own little way of singing. So,
I
but
I'm sort of spoiled now because I use Merlin.
oh yeah, Merlin
So
is great. Merlin
it's
is great.
it's a
It makes
fantastic.
mistakes once in a while, but it's good.
Yes, it is a fantastic thing, but I would love to work on my call identification skills a little better because uh, even though we've been doing this a long time, I still consider myself sort of a beginner because I get out in these groups with Audubon or at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services conference, and there's so many people that have so much knowledge. And that's one thing that I'm grateful for because in this space, people are very willing to share and to educate. I just think it's so cool to be a part of this space.
It
And,
is.
and I'm so grateful for it. It's funny. I started out in nature. I hit the corporate world, worked for a large sporting goods company for 18 years, burnt out from that, and then I found my calling with coming into with Feather Friendly. And
Yeah.
um, I tell you, I wake up every day. I've never once said, "Ugh, I got to go to work." I'm like, I get to go to work.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. And I'm so happy that you and Feather Friendly and the other treatment people
Mhm.
are on this planet at this time. I mean, it wasn't that way all the time. We have to
It,
remember that. You're a good surprise to have in the world.
yeah, and we try not to take that for granted. We have a cause. We have a sort of a I don't know, a mantra to do what we can
Hmm.
and to do it the
Hmm.
right way, ethically, you know, um, just properly. So again, we're grateful to be even in this space.
Well, it's
But
wonderful. And then also, people are learning from the treatments. If for some reason they can't get a treatment from you or others, they're
yes,
building them themselves because they know what the ramifications are now and all the measurements, which
you're
is
you're
great.
you're absolutely right. There are very good proven solutions, not just from us.
Hmm.
And there are DIY ones that
Yeah,
people can do themselves. I think that's so important too, because we do know um, the more products that are out there, the better off it is, because then people
that's
have options based on, you know, costs or effort involved or all of that.
that's right. Or even what their windows are like or where they live,
Exactly.
have different needs. So
I have one last question for you, Jane.
yes, sir.
And this is under legacy. If you could leave viewers with one idea about why bird conservation matters, personally and globally, what would it be?
It would be that birds succeeded us, preceded us on this great good earth. They go way, way back to the time of the dinosaurs, and now they're finding even before the dinosaurs.
Mhm.
And they have a lot to tell us.
Mm,
We have to listen. We may not know what it is they have to tell us, but we do know that when we go outside and we're part of their lives and what they give to us is profound. Just by being there, their beauty, uh, they're also the canaries in the coal mine that tell us what is wrong with the
right.
planet. They really are. They're telling us what's wrong. The decline of bird species is so significant right now. People don't quite realize how many we've lost, as I say, almost 40% in the past since the 1970s. So we really have to pay attention to that. And what are they saying? We know what they give us.
So true. Well, Jane, I'm so grateful for your time. I'm honored that you would, spend some time with us and allow us to sort of throw questions at you and get your perspective. And I do want to thank you so much for all your advocacy work. You know, it was great meeting you a few years back, and we've stayed in touch here and there and come across each other in the various organizations. And again, all I want to say is thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you
Oh,
for Feather Friendly.
hmm.
Thank you for the love of your work every day that you get up and you thank the universe that you're there. We
Well,
thank you.
thank you. And I look forward to hopefully running into you soon at one of these organized events, etc. So
Me too.
be great to catch up again.
Thank you. Have a great time.
Thanks, Jane.
Bye bye.